Hey everyone, today I'm going to take a look at the Sway window manager. Specifically, I'm going to be using the installer script, but instead of just installing it from scratch, I'm going to use an installer script from Drew at JustAGuyLinux from the JustAGuyLinux YouTube channel. This script looks really interesting. I actually was watching one of his most recent videos here as of the time of this filming regarding the Sway desktop, and he did an install from a fresh Debian install, and my current setup right now is also on Debian for my production machine, and this is what my current environment looks like right now. Currently what I run is I run i3, and I really like i3. It's actually my overall favorite window manager, and it's also in my favorite platform, which is X, as opposed to Wayland. I'm not really a big fan of Wayland. Wayland, for me, still has issues. It never just feels complete. However, the Xorg, as you probably know, is on its way out as far as end of life. The way I dealt with that actually was that I installed Xlibre. So I'm running Xlibre here on Debian, and switching from Xorg to Xlibre was actually easy peasy. And so if I run a fast fetch here, and then just let me zoom it in real quick. And so as you can see here on the i3 designation here for the window manager, it's showing Xlibre. So Xlibre, like I said, was easy peasy to install here on Debian. Something I'm a big fan of because this is really taking the X platform to the next level and keeping it alive. I think this is going to really turn out to be something fantastic. It'll be a great alternative to Wayland. And for my needs, I much prefer X. I think it's a much better platform for me. But anyways, let's get back to the whole Sway thing. One of the things that really appeals to me about Sway is the fact that I use i3. And i3 is really just my favorite window manager, like I said before. And this is my current setup right now. So it's actually pretty simple. And I just have one file here for my config. And then I have a calendar up here in the center based on pop-up calendar, which is a nice project on GitHub. And then I have my weather widget here and so forth. So yes, this is a very comfortable environment for me. And Sway is essentially the Wayland equivalent or the version of i3, I guess. So they are compatible. You could technically use the same config file for this as well. But I just want to run this installer script by JustAGuyLinux because that way, if I want to play around in Wayland, I can do it and still have my i3 benefits that I love. For example, right now on Workspace 1, I'm using tabs, and I really like the tabs. And you got that in the Sway, too. I don't have to give those up. So what I mean by that is, like, if I hit Shift left arrow, then I can pop right over to another window that I have open right here, which is my Tunar file manager. So I can easily just switch back and forth. And I really like the tabbing. The tabbing, I guess you could compare it to your web browser where you have different tabs that you can just switch back and forth on multiple tabs on your web browser. This kind of layout really is the same. Is really appealing to me because I lose that in some of the other window managers. On this one, I have a tab set up on Workspace 1, and then on Workspace 2, I have just like normal tiling and so forth. So I can specify all that in my config file. But let's move on. So here I'm at JustAGuyLinux website here. This is his page on Codeberg. Here we got the Sway setup script and everything. And I'm just going to do this by the seat of my pants. And from the install that he did on his video there, he actually installed it from, like I said before, a fresh Debian install. What I want to do is I want to try installing it from a current install. So I'm just going to be bold here. I went ahead and backed up my config files for i3 just in case. I'm going to just download this script and I want to run it on a current configuration or setup like mine just to see if I can post install this from an existing setup. So I think that'll be kind of interesting. The JustAGuy, the way he's got this set up, here we got a screenshot of the Sway setup. And under the about, he does mention that it's based on his DWM setup philosophy. DWM, I think, is Drew's main window manager. And then down here, he gives you an overview of a quick install. And that's probably the way I'm going to go here. And then advanced usage, and then what gets installed. So it's going to start out with a system update and then put in the core packages like Sway, Waybar, build tools, and the essential Wayland tools. So this is all cool and groovy. And then if you're an NVIDIA GPU user, it even gives you a step here that you need to go through. There's an NVIDIA bash script that will take care of all the NVIDIA stuff for you. And then, of course, the color scheme, he's going along with the DWM inspiration. Even has a key bindings overview here right on the website. So you can kind of see everything going on here right in advance. Manual tiling, tabbed layout, which is something I mentioned earlier that I like. Your borders, screenshot tools, and so forth. And then there's even some troubleshooting here if you run into some issues like on Waybar, the icon's not showing up and so forth. I'm just going to go back up here and I'm just going to jump right in and hope for the best. So here we got our quick install. I'm just going to go ahead and copy that and then go back over to workspace 1 here, and I'm just going to paste it in and see what happens. Just call me Mr. Bold, but fortune favors the bold, right? So let's hit that. And it's asking me right off the bat, do I want to install it? And let me think. Okay. So I'm going to hit yes there, type in my password, and there we go. And so off we go. And like I said, I'm running Sparky Linux, and this is the rolling, which is based on Debian testing. And so this was actually tested on Debian Trixie, which is the stable version. Actually, I wouldn't mind running the stable either. I just did Trixie just because. And some of you might be asking, why Sparky instead of just installing straight up Debian testing? Well, I really like the extra stuff that Sparky has on here, and also their repos are really nice. For example, in my weather app up here, on my Waybar here, it's got a pop-up and it uses YAD. And the YAD dialog box, by default, doesn't have HTML capabilities, so my weather wouldn't show up in there. And the last time I checked on Debian Stable, the YAD HTML feature is not really compiled into that. However, if you download it from the Sparky repos, it does have the HTML working and compiled into the YAD dialog. So I don't have to go through all that work and compile YAD manually. So I like that. I think that's nice. So that's just one example, but I really like the Sparky repos overall. And just the way it's configured out of the box is just really nice. So for me, it's just a great fit. Fits like a glove. And I really like Debian anyway, so Sparky is like the perfect setup for me. And I would probably be just as happy using the Sparky stable there. I forgot what they call it, but just the Sparky release. Like I said, I'm on the rolling, so there you go. So I just had a message pop up there, so it looks like it's kind of doing its thing here. And it's installed the theme successfully. Now it's cloning into the Butterscripts wallpaper. Butterscripts is another thing that Drew has come up with, which looks really interesting. I haven't really messed with any of that yet because this is the first time I've ever been in it. So now it's asking me to install optional tools like browsers, editors, and so forth. I probably already have most of this stuff, but I'm just going to say yes and see what we got. So here's our Butter Applications installer. This is kind of interesting. This script will help you install various apps or the Butterscripts repo and app packages. Cool. So please select an option. So I guess I'm going to go with Butterscripts installer. I'm going to hit 1 here and press enter. And so now it's asking you if you want to select a Butterscript to install. So we got Butter Bash, which is a modular bash configuration framework. Interesting. And then we got Butter ZSH. It's a modular ZSH configuration framework. Those both have stars on them, so that must be good. I'm going to try that out. I'd like to see the Butter Bash and ZSH there. And then we got Butter Notes, a note-taking, interesting. Genie, I already have Genie installed. That's one of my favorite text editors. So yes, I would never find myself without Genie. And then we got browsers to choose from, such as Firefox, LibreWolf, Brave, Chromium, and Zen. Nice. I already have Firefox and Chromium installed. And actually, I'm using Fire Dragon, which is a fork of Florp. And then, let's see, Discord, nah. Fast Fetch, I already got installed. Custom NeoVim, yeah, I might go for that. And Vanilla as the other option. So let me start out with 1. I'm just going to hit 1 here. And so each option has its own interactive options. Cool. And I'm going to go one at a time as recommended. So do you want to install? Yes. Let's go with Butterbash. See what that's like. Recommended tools, FZF and RIP. Yeah, why not? That looks harmless. And let's enter. Actually, I'm going to do Butter ZSH too, because I really like ZSH, and I haven't really installed it since I went to Sparky here. Let's go with that. And then optional is ZSH, which I don't have installed, so yes on that for sure. Otherwise, I wouldn't get very far, would I? Okay, and asking me if I want to install the recommended tools and plugins, and I'm good with that too, so let's go for it. And would it like it as your default shell? Yes, that's fine. I've used ZSH as my default for ages. So, okay, so I'm going to press enter to continue. That completed just fine. And I think I'm going to go with Butter Notes too. That's a note-taking and project management tool. Something I might use. Looks interesting. Let's try it out. Where should your notes be stored? I guess documents is good for me. So I'm going to go with one. Hit that. B for butter, BC for butterclip. Yeah, I'm good with aliases. Let's add them in. And where should they be sourced? Tough call. I'm going to go source them in the ZSHRC since I set that as my default shell. So let's go with 2 there. And that's completed. So enter to continue. Anything else? We got Genie browsers, Fast Fetch, Discord. I think I'll add in the custom NeoVim just to see what that's like. Even though I use Genie most often, when I do get into Vim, it's handy sometimes, especially if I want to stay in a terminal or if I'm in a console. And I kind of like to see this Vim theming or whatever. So there we go. That was quick. So I think I'm good now. So I'm going to go ahead and press 10 to return to the main menu. And then we got apt package install if we wanted to add other things in there, which I won't need to because I've already got everything on that I need. But I think I'll hit 2 just to look at it and see what it offers here. So here we can add in like Thunar, different file managers, PCman, FM, Crusader, Nautilus, Nemo, Dolphin, Ranger. Cool. I'm using Thunar as my main. I'm going to hit 0 to skip this category. And then we move on into graphics things like GIMP, Flameshot, and XSIV and so forth, Inkscape. And so I got these installed as well. And so you can just hit 0 and keep toggling through these different categories and select what you like. I'm using Kitty and XFCE4 Terminal, so I'm good there. Yeah, this really gives you a nice overview of different things if you want to add in Mousepad or Kate, gedit, and so forth. You can get it right from here, straight from the repos. And then you got MPV, VLC, OBS, and so forth. Again, I got all this stuff installed, but anything you want to add in here is quite nice. You got B-top, H-top, brightness control. So really nice selection. These are all the things that I actually choose myself and install manually. So for me, this is a plus. This is like checking all the boxes for everything I install. So great job, Drew. Nice. And I'm going to say no to LibreOffice because I already have an Office suite installed. And then you can manually enter any additional package names. Very cool. So if I wanted to put something in there that wasn't in the list, now's the time to do it. And it shows here in the example that you can add in multiple apps too, like, for example, NeoFetch, Tmux, and ZSH. So nice. I just want to skip all that so I can just press enter without entering anything. And then it'll let me know that I didn't enter anything and press enter again, and I'm back here. So I'm ready to reboot. I'm just going to hit reboot the system and then exit. But actually, I'm going to exit. I want to pause my video first and gracefully close down OBS Studio before I reboot. And then I'll be back. So I think I'm going to pause the video and restart it and just kind of see what happens. If everything worked, you'll see me in about a second. And I'm back. Actually, I'm back a couple hours later. I got called away on an errand just as I was going into my reboot. All that time I was in suspense wondering if this was going to work, and it worked beautifully. So here I am. I'm on the desktop, and everything looks great. It appears that it was a flawless install. And even by OBS Studio, I had to launch this, of course, after I got booted in. And I didn't even have any trouble at all with the Pipewire stuff. So that is really cool because typically when I install a Wayland desktop like Hyperland or whatever, I usually got to add in an XDG portal of some sort, like a Hyperland portal or whatever. And apparently that was already taken care of in the install script. Either that or it's just not an issue in Sway. I don't know. But whatever the case, I suspect it was probably Drew's install scripter here that probably took care of all the things I needed to take care of for OBS Studio. So that is an added bonus, a big plus there. I'm loving it. Of course, in Wayland, and the reason I don't use Wayland, one of the reasons, probably 98% of the reason, is no global shortcuts. So if I hit my global shortcut for pause, for example, on OBS Studio, which on my keyboard is Alt-Z, it is unaffected. I'm pressing it right now, and it's not pausing. So, global shortcuts is really the biggest thing that chases me away from Wayland. And it's the biggest clue to me that Wayland's just not ready for production in a lot of cases. Now, if I was a gamer and demanding insane refresh rates on a monitor and needed to milk every bit of CPU power that I could, yeah, Wayland would probably be my choice, but I'm not. So, and overall, in my opinion, X/X Libre is just such a far more superior platform for me anyway. So, enough of my blabbering. Let's explore. So here we are. Beautiful background. The Waybar is configured nicely. And up here we got our different settings here like CPU, hard drive space, and RAM, it looks like. And then we got our two workspaces up here. So it's set not to be persistent, which is the way I like it. And so that's cool. That's how my i3 is. And then over here we got our volume control, which increments one at a time, which is beautiful. Love it. A lot of configurations and setups like the default at 5%. And I never really understood that. That's just too much of a jump for me. But this is really nice. Left click on the mouse and it opens up the PAVU control here. So you can set your playback, recording, output devices, and so forth. So wonderful there as well. And then, of course, we got our clock. And just hovering over actually brings up the calendar, which is nice. Nice glyphs there. I like the little clock designation icon, whatever you want to call it there, and the speaker icon. Then we got our notifications here and opens up a nice side window there, which is cool. And then, of course, our sys tray, which is showing OBS Studio right now in record mode. So let's explore. First of all, I guess I'd want to start off with Rofi so I know what to launch, because I don't know what all the keyboards are. Some of the settings are probably pretty universal. Like, I don't know if I do, for example, launch a console, I could probably do super enter. Let's see what happens. And we got it. Yay! Except we're getting a little message here. Let's see. No such file or directory. Could not source the home/blah blah .zsh environment. Well, yeah. I don't think I really need that .zsh anyway. I would assume that might be actually on the home folder, I guess. So let me just do an ls.zsh star, see what we got here. So there's our env file. I think I really don't even need that. That's probably just causing unnecessary trouble. But instead of deleting it, I think I'll just rename it. So I'm going to just type in here, and let me zoom in a little bit, make it easier for you guys to see. So I just do move .zsh env to .zsh env hyphen back. There we are. Now let's close the terminal and try it again and see if it explodes or something. Yay! That's better. That's kind of what I want to see. So that looks happy. We got our ZSH tab up there. Welcome back. So, wow, easy fix. Whew. I thought I was going to be in for something. Okay, so there we go. That's all taken care of. What else can we explore? Let's see, Rofi. Let's try Super D. How about Super Spacebar? There we go, Rofi. Wow! So my browser that I use primarily is FireDragon. And so whatever the key setting for the browser is, which I'm assuming is probably either Super B or Super E maybe, I mean Super W, is probably going to launch Firefox by default, but I'm just going to select Fire Dragon and just see where it opens up at. Okay, so it's opening it up in workspace 1. Nice. Okay, and there's our keyboard commands. Yay! So, coincidentally, that's where I left off, was in JustAGuyLinux's page here. So that's convenient. So I can kind of see what's going on here. So Super Shift S looks like F will toggle full screen. How about our Thunar? Here we go. Super F. All right. I wouldn't have guessed that one, even though it's kind of obvious. I use Super E for Thunar on my own config. So Super F is pretty close. Let's take a look. Wow. I love the theming. That is nice. Very cool. In fact, I'm going to take the browser here. I'm just going to slide that over to workspace 2, which should be Super Shift 2. There we go. So we'll move that over there and have these guys together. And then let's jump back over into workspace 2 and take a look at some more of these key bindings. For example, I might want to see if it's got a key binding for, oh, here we go. Firefox is Super B. Text editor Genie, which is my fave. Super E. Okay, that makes sense. E for editor. Toggle floating and tiled is Super Shift space. That's important. Focus, move, resize window DWM style is Super Control HJKL. Nice. I'm assuming if you got a couple windows together, like this guy. Yeah, so here's Super Control L and we're expanding. Nice. Super Control H will go the other way. And then of course J and K would probably be more relevant to maybe a floating window, which I'm not sure how you make it float. We'll get to that. So nice. Full screen audio mixer, Super Shift A, nice. Super Shift F is full screen. Nice, that worked fine. And then workspaces are Super 1 through 12 in this case, I think. So that's good. And move is Super Shift. So that's all in line with what I'm used to for sure. And then here we got our different layouts. Nice, this is cool. Control Shift 1 is a horizontal split. 2 is vertical split. Control Shift 3 is tab layout. I like tab layouts. Actually, I have my workspace 1 on i3 set up for tab layout. So if I do Control Shift 1, Control Shift 1, Control Shift 2, that's the vertical layout. 3 is the tab layout. So there we go. Nice. I like that. And this probably works about the same as on my i3, the way I got it set up. Let's try it. Super Shift arrow, right arrow. And we reverse the tabs. Now if I go right arrow again, it should just like break free into, and it did. So now it's tiled off to the side. Nice. And now if I arrow backwards, Super Shift left arrow, it goes back into the tab. Beautiful. And if I want to move it to the, again, Super Shift arrow, and it'll slide it over to the left-hand tab. So I'm loving it. That's cool. And of course, if I want to just switch between tabs, then it would just simply be Super arrow, I believe. And it is. So yes, I can just switch between my open apps that way. And of course, I can have as many tabs as I want. I love the tab setup because you can, the tabs are like what you would see like in your web browser when you have multiple tabs open. It's really the same concept. So you can have a ton of things open and then just switch between tabs, and you're not sacrificing your window size like you do if you were just going to have it tiled like this. I mean, there are times when I want it tiled like this, especially if I had, let's say, this and maybe a web browser. You know, I could just drag something into a drag and drop upload window or something. There's all kinds of reasons I want things tiled like this, but then there's a lot of reasons when I just want it like this, have it tabbed in these groups. Some people call it groups. I've always just called it tabs because that's how it's referred to in i3. And of course, Sway is kind of the Wayland incarnation of i3 anyways, because the i3 configuration, you could just bring it over and Sway will use it. It's almost 100% compatible. So tabs. And I kind of forgot where I was going with all that. I babble too much. So anyways, it looks like our ZSH is working again. And this, I believe the terminal is WesTerm. And I've never really used it, but I like it. It's got tabs on it. So yeah, that's a new experience for me. I can open up another tab and essentially have another terminal here. So that is very cool. So I could do like a fast fetch or something on this terminal and then hop over to my next tab and do something else. And I'm guessing a key binding on this would be, I'm not sure how you would get over to that tab. I guess I'd have to, oh, okay, make new tabs just like you do in Firefox or in a web browser. Super T, that'll make new tabs. Nice. Oh, there we go. It's Control Tab. All right, so Control Tab will let you toggle through the different tabs here, so that's cool. I like it. All right. So what else can we look at here? Let's open Kitty real quick. So Rofi, Kitty, and yep, ZSH is working fine there too. So yeah, and it looks great on Kitty as well. I like the transparency in the background. That's working. But yeah, this Wes term though, I am pretty intrigued with this. I kind of like it. I might even start using it. Thanks, Drew. You turned me on to something new. Nice. So next, I think I'm going to take a look at the configuration. So let me jump over to Thunar here, .config, and then Sway, which is somewhere around here. There it is. So here we go. Yeah, wow. So this looks very modular. We got our wallpaper, Wofi. The Waybar is right in here. Nice. I like that. Sway NC scripts, Rofi. Cool. And foot. So let's take a look at config. I'm going to double click on that. And that opened me up in Genie here. To me, it all looks very familiar because this is just like looking at an i3 config because it's cut from the same cloth. So for me, that's very comfortable right off the bat. And here we got our variables already set up, mod and mod 4, which is your super key. And then we got variable left, down, up, right for our different letters here, H, J, K, L. So that's nice to know. Term is our Wes term. And then our menu Rofi, our menu, our config.rossi, which is the theme for Rofi. And then we got our config directory variable here pointing to .config sway. So that's good to know. Then we got our wallpaper here. We're using Sway BG, loading this wallhaven.png, which is also in the Sway folder. So that's very handy, actually, to have that. So when I pop back here, which was super left arrow, then we got our wallpaper directory right here. And then we can see all these different wallpapers that are available. So, wow. Very nice. And I really like the one we're in. So I doubt that I'm going to change it, but it's kind of cool that we got all these other ones here. Wow, that looks like my cousin Tommy Tiki. Very cool. So there's our wallpapers. So I like the way that everything is just residing within this Sway folder. I think that's very cool. We got our SWIT, our scripts, our Rofi themes, and all that right here. I don't have to hop around throughout the config file to find different things. Wofi, it's all right here. So gold star for that one. So back over to Genie. Here's our Sway idle. And we got our timeout here at 300 seconds, which is 5 minutes. And I could comment all that out if I wanted to get rid of the Sway lock altogether. I don't use the locking. For me, it's just annoying. So I would probably comment that out, which I probably will at some time. But it's nice to have there. And it actually locked on me a couple times. But the lock screen looks really nice. This whole theme is just really beautifully done. I couldn't ask for a better theme. I don't think I would change it. And then here we got our key bindings laid out, our basics, our movement. We have our exit here, which is looks like Super Shift X, and it's got it set up with a nag on here so it doesn't go directly there. And it looks like it's Super Shift X. That's nice, easy to do. So here we got our nag and it's working just fine. So that's good to know too. And we got our workspaces, move to workspace, layout, resize, screenshot utilities. So looks like it's using Grim here. Yes, that's right. Grim and Slurp, I think I remember seeing that in the information there. Typically when I take a screenshot, I like to take a shot of an area. So let's try Superprint. I think that's what I'm looking for if I want to save it as a file. Maybe. Let's try. Okay, so supposedly that saved the screenshots. Come back and there it is. Beautiful. So that's all I got to remember. Superprint. Easy peasy. I can remember that. Superprint. Nice. Okay, and then we got our volume controls here. And let me hit my volume up and down keys and it's working just fine. And that one, the keys are going about 5%, which is too much for me. I like the 1%. Even 2 is fine. I'll make it 2. So I'm going to just change this, and let me zoom in on this a little bit so it's easier to see for people. Easier to see in case you're on a laptop or something. You know how that goes. So yeah, let's go with 2. I think that's where I got it set on my i3. Although I think 1 is just fine too. So let's save that. And now let's do up and down. So here, actually, our media keys are here. So yes, wake up, Jack. So anyways, we got our change volume up here and down. And so that's all in our config directory scripts, change volume. So let's take a look. Jump over here, go into our scripts directory, change volume. Let's open that up in Genie. Here's where we can set our increment. So let's change 5 to 2, save it. And now it's moving 2, and I didn't have to reload the Sway configuration. I thought I didn't have to do that, but it's good to know. Okay, and that takes care of that. Excellent. So what else can we do? So we got applications. So here's our applications here, and mod F is Thunar. So I would just change that to Fire Dragon for myself. Whoops, not that. Even though I do have ESR, but I like Fire Dragon a little better. So I'm going to just kind of go with that, save it. And now if I hit Super B, it should open it up, except that it's already open. So let me close it real quick. And then open it again. Oh yeah, that's right. Fire Dragon is a flat pack. So I would just have to find that here. Right here. And make that Fire Dragon. Yay. And workspace 2 as well. Let's do a workspace number for this. So I'm going to just copy this guy right here. And paste it right in here. And change 9 to 2, of course, because that's where I want it to open. And now let's give it another try. And I'm going to just close this instance here. There we go. Super Shift R. And now Super B. And there we go. Wahoo! So we got our browser open here on this workspace. So yeah, looking good here so far. Excellent. Looks like we're almost at the end of the config file here. Here's our colors, and I like the colors just the way they are, but easy to find right here. Nice. There's a lot in here though. This is a very, like I said, very modular setup. We got general, groups, monitors, rules, input, environment, so many things to look at. So like I'm typically a one monitor guy. Looks like it's set up just the way I would normally have it anyway. HDMI monitor. Occasionally I do hook up an HDMI monitor to it, and this is just fine too. So wow, it's really set up just for me. Thanks. And we got our status bar here. And so this is where we load our Waybar. And so it's calling to the Waybar here. It kills it first, and then we'll reload it here just in case there's an instance running, especially when we refresh. And then we got our window rules here for floating apps. And that's all good too. I mean, I think that's kind of the stuff that I would want floating as well. So again, all done for me. I really like that. And dialog boxes. So that's all perfect. I'm going to probably bring some of my own key bindings over. And it looks like it's already pretty much set up for them. And it's really just about the way I use it anyways. The only differences are probably Thunar. I think I use Super E for Thunar, and here it's Super F. So if I couldn't hack it, all I'd have to do is change it to E and make sure there's no doubles. So yeah, and that gets us to the end of the config file. And one thing I like to do is I like having instant reboot and shutdown available. So I have something in here that I would add to that. And I guess I would have to do a search real quick. And that's right here. So I got like my super alt keys that I like here. So I would probably add that in, and I think I will. I'll add it to the family. I'm going to copy that and paste it into my config, and maybe just stick it down here. I should put it by the other one where the nag is, I guess. I'll look for nag. I think it's called Sway Nag. There it is. So I'll just kind of pop it right under all this, just to kind of keep it all together. But these are my custom alt keys, where Super Alt R will do an instant reboot and a Super Alt S will do a shutdown right now without prompting. So I kind of like that. And then of course Super Alt L, it'll log me out without prompting. So yeah, let's see if that can flip. No error messages, excellent. So there we go. And I won't test that right now because it'll probably cut off my video. And then our load screen, super lock. So I think I can lock this and still record. So like if I do super X, it takes you to this lock screen. And that's a really nice looking lock screen, I think. Even for somebody that doesn't like being locked out. And then super shift space will toggle between floating and tiled. So I can do that. And I can make this guy float. Let's take a look at like a different window though. Let's put that back into tiling. Let's come over to here and maybe just go into, and let's float that guy. And here you can has a title bar on it. So if I grab it by the title bar, I can just move it around just like in a floating desktop. I don't have to use a modifier key like holding down the super key, or I don't have to hold down any other key to make that move. I can just grab it by the title bar and slide it around. And for me, that's kind of nice. I think that's really convenient. Of course, if I do want to use my modifier key, I can hold my super key down and grab it from anywhere, like in the middle. And that's cool. But if for some reason your left arm spontaneously becomes paralyzed, you can come up here and grab it with your mouse on the title bar. Okay, that's a little far-fetched, but you know. So I'm going to put that back in. And now it's back into my groups here, or my tabs. And this theming, I am like beyond impressed with the theming as well. Holy moly. But I think I kind of covered everything. I just kind of wanted to do a quick overview and just take a look at this. My curiosity was really getting the best of me. And I'm glad I installed it. I know it was kind of bold to install this on my production machine, but now I have it along with the i3. And I really like having the option of i3 and then the Wayland i3 or Sway. I just call it that. I like the Wes term too, so that was another bonus I got out of this. But I got to tell you, Drew, you get a double thumbs up for me on this script. And probably all your other scripts. So yeah, if you all want to check out JustAGuyLinux, he's got a great YouTube channel. I actually subscribed to him here recently because I just discovered him through the Linux Cast, I think it was. He seems to be a regular there with Matt and the boys on the live podcast that they do about once a week. I think every Monday night, if I remember right. And so, yes, definitely worth a look. Big shout out to this guy, that Linux guy. DWM is his primary window manager, I believe. And so that is the suckless beauty, which I might try one of these days out of curiosity. I mean, these scripts make everything so simple and efficient that I can see myself just kind of trying them all. Why not? And then, of course, under his Wayland category, he's got the Sway Setup that we just ran here. And then for other X11 window managers, we got Awesome WM Setup, the SPWM, i3, OpenBox, and Qtile. So a lot to choose from here. And given that I'm running X Libre as well, which was super easy to install here in Debian, had no issue at all. It took me like literally a few minutes. And I was running it like maybe 2 minutes. Easy peasy. Yes, like I said, double thumbs up. If you want to give this a try, I would encourage anyone to just give this a shot. Maybe load it into a spare laptop, a VM, or just add it to your repertoire of stuff. With that, I hope this was helpful. And I'm really glad I did this. This was totally worth it. Now I got a cool Sway environment set up. I don't think I've ever set it up this good. So yes, good on you, Drew. And with that, I hope this first look was helpful. And if it wasn't, too bad. Just kidding. Anyway, don't forget to leave that thumbs up and hit subscribe. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.